So while everybody's out celebrating their cute little regional rivalries this weekend, the Iron Bowl, Ohio State, Michigan, USC and Notre Dame will be playing a true national rivalry game.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, it's going to be free. And you know me, I'm always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So yeah, everybody's playing their rivalry games this weekend. Those are big games I mentioned. The Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn, state of Alabama cares. Michigan, Ohio State, the Midwest cares. You've got, all those other regional games at Minnesota and Wisconsin and Iowa and whomever they're playing, they'll celebrate those games. Nobody plays a true national rivalry game annually like USC Notre Dame. It's the only one. I think the only one that comes close to comparing, as if you would consider it a true national rivalry game, Army-Navy. That's it. So while this game is going on, while it's a true national rivalry game, the only one that everybody will be watching across the country, from West Coast to East Coast, in the Midwest, this is a serious game. USC's got some business to take care of. They've got plans to ruin. And it's going to take USC's quarterback playing a really good game. So for this first segment, does Jayden Maiava have to play a turnover-free game in order for the Trojans to have a chance to beat Notre Dame? I would say no, not turnover-free. However, I think it would definitely be better if Jayden does play turnover-free. Mostly because of the way he plays. He's got a real aggressive style. He likes to take chances. As I say, no risk it, no biscuit. Well, he plays that style of football. Here's what we know about this game on Saturday. Notre Dame's pass defense. It's the best in the country. In fact, opposing quarterbacks, they've completed just 47.5% of their passes against Notre Dame this year. That is the best in college football. Not just this year. It's the best in college football since 2016. That's pretty impressive. So while we know Notre Dame's got a really good pass defense, and yeah, you can go check out their schedule. Part of that lends to that excellent statistics. With that being said, Jayden can help himself because he has a penchant for taking risks. And when you have that aggressive style where you're willing to take chances, you don't want to do that against a team that has picked off the ball 15 times this year. That's top 10 in the country. That's where he's going to be careful. For those of us who remember last year's debacle, USC in South Bend, trying to forget that game, but you got to live with the losses as well as the wins. You'll remember in that game, USC turned the ball over 5 times. Caleb Williams had 3 interceptions in the first half. There was a couple of fumbles as well. Quentin Joyner had a fumble. Mario Williams had a fumble. The final score, 48-20 in favor of Notre Dame. And despite USC's defense playing like crap last year, they weren't really the issue. You see the score say 48 points. Well, one of those, a lot of the time, it was short fields because of the turnovers. And, Notre Dame's defense actually scored a touchdown as well. They had that, it was on a fumble, scoop and score. In fact, the guy's name was Xavier Watts. He literally killed USC by himself. 2 interceptions, fumble recovery, and score. He had a hell of a game. So again, he had 2 interceptions. He had 2 of the 3 first half interceptions. and I mentioned he had that 15-yard fumble recovery. That was at the end of the game. Kind of just put an exclamation point on everything. Since we're talking about Jayden Maiava and Caleb Williams, because they play a similar style of game, Coach Freeman said, I couldn't speak more highly of the performance of our defense. He was talking about last year. I don't know if there's a perfect answer to stopping Caleb Williams. He's one of the best college football players that I've ever seen. All I kept telling our guys was, we have a plan, and on this play, you have to attack. You cannot play passive. I have to imagine that's going to be the same game plan, same message that Coach Freeman is going to use for the Irish this year. So, I mean, even though Jayden isn't Caleb Williams, again, they play a similar style of game. And when you have the confidence like Caleb Williams has, and the type of confidence that Jayden Maiava has, when they're on the field, when you have that kind of confidence in your ability to make any throw, you saw how, remember that pass he made to Lake McCree last week? You're like, wow, how did he get it in there? And when you think you can out-athlete any defensive lineman or any linebacker that's out on the field, there's a chance good things will happen. There's also a chance chaos is going to ensue. You're going to get some moments where you're just going to go, wow, I need more of that. And then you're also going to get some moments where you're just going to wish and say, hey, you know what? I wish the quarterback wouldn't try and do too much. That's what Notre Dame's defense presents. You cannot make a mistake against these guys. If USC wants to win this game, Jayden needs to make sure the offense is not in too many third down and long situations. Reason being, Notre Dame's defense, they're really, really, really good. If I say something 3 times, it's for emphasis. There's a reason. Notre Dame's third down defense, they only allow just a tick under 29% conversion rate. Top 10 in the country. Back number 8. Now, while I want to see Jayden protect the ball, I also want to see more of what he can do. That's why everybody wants him in the game. If you're going to put him in the game over Miller Moss, who was a more accurate passer, you want to see Jayden use some designed runs, right? Use that speed RPO. Get to the edge. Stress out Notre Dame's defense. Because, look, if USC's run game, if they can do to Notre Dame what they did to Penn State, then all of a sudden Jayden Maiava, he could have one of those breakout moment types of games. I'm not saying he's going to have the same type of stats that Carson Palmer had against Notre Dame back in 2002, the year he won the Heisman. Both teams were good that year. But it's what Carson did in that game. He threw for a bazillion yards, but he also used his legs. He took off and ran when the moment called for it. That's it. Protect the ball. Don't try and squeeze the ball into a window. Let your wide receivers make plays. I need to see USC ruin Notre Dame's season. You want to see USC ruin Notre Dame's season. We all want one more moral victory this year, right? All right. So Notre Dame is, I think, a touchdown favorite going into this contest. The head says you pick Notre Dame to win this game. They are the better team. I can't pick against USC, though. It's just can't do it. So with that said, if I'm saying Notre Dame, you should be picking Notre Dame to win this game. If you're going to bet, follow that advice. However, I do think USC is going to cover. And because I can't end this segment saying USC is going to lose the game, USC 30, Notre Dame 24, and it's going to require USC's defense at the end to make the stop. I don't know who. Maybe we can get a recreation of somebody knocking down a pass at midfield like Mark Cusano did in 1996. Let's just make it dramatic. Let's make Notre Dame leave that field with their heads down, knowing they're not going to the playoffs and knowing that USC spoiled their year. That's what we need. That's what I want. And that's what we'll all be thankful for. Did everybody have a good Thanksgiving? I don't think the USC men's basketball team had a good Thanksgiving. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. When was the last time you went to a concert, any live event, USC game? Have you ever been to a USC Notre Dame game? You still want to go to a USC Notre Dame game? You still got time if you use GameTime tickets. GameTime has a feature called GameTime Picks, and it makes getting tickets for your favorite live event really easy. Really easy. They have a couple of really cool features you're going to like. Number one, this is my favorite feature. It's a view from your seat. You're going to know what the view looks like before you check out. So if you see a price you like, because GameTime Picks filters out all the fluff, they're only going to show you the best seats at the best price. So now you have that going for you. And GameTime is also going to guarantee you the best price on the ticket. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So the men's basketball team, they jumped on the bus, took a drive down the 10 freeway, stopped off in Palm Desert, and they were playing the Acrisure Classic Series. This is a 4-game little mini tournament over the holidays, feast week, right? They were taking on St. Mary's, the St. Mary's Gaels from Northern California, Moraga. The other two teams in this little tourney, Arizona State and New Mexico. And the winner of USC St. Mary's was going to take on the winner of ASU New Mexico on Friday. Well, real quick, I'm getting to the game. I'm getting to it. This is the second time USC's already been to Palm Springs, Palm Desert. They beat Gonzaga in that exhibition game earlier in the year, 96-93. Now, that was that. It's going to be a long year for this men's basketball team. So, St. Mary's won. They won big. USC got their ass handed to them. That's the nicest way to put it. Final score, 71-36. And I'm not even sure the game was that close. Going into this game, USC and St. Mary's had played each other 8 times. USC had never lost to them, ever. The last time they played was back in 2010. USC won that game 60-49. Again, USC is not supposed to lose to St. Mary's. This one, they found out differently. Let me just go through some numbers, some stats, some situations. There were 7 minutes left in the first half. Okay, St. Mary's led 20-19. That was it. The game was going back and forth between that. That was a 10th lead change when the Gaels took that lead. And that's right around the time when the wheels just came off the bus for the entire game. St. Mary's went on I'll call this one a mini run, a 16-2 run to end the first half. All of a sudden now, the score is St. Mary's 32, USC 21 at halftime. This is how it ended. In the last 5 minutes of the first half, USC scored 0 points. I mentioned the 16-2 run to end the half. USC was 0 for 5 from the field. They had made just one of their last 9 field goal attempts. And that's how you end up losing or trailing by 11 at the half. I would say the first 18 minutes of the first 20 minutes of the first half, these guys played hard. They gave effort. They were still 0 for 6 from behind the arc, 9 for 27 from the field in total, 33%. They finished 0 for 12 from three-point range in the game. It was not a good game. It was ugly, hard to watch. They didn't do better they weren't even better on rebounding either. That was hard to watch. 23-14 in the first half, including an 8-2 advantage on the offensive glass. And that carried over into the second half. Didn't stop there. I mean, USC's leading scorer in the game, Josh Cohen. In the first half, he had 8 points, 4 for 5 from the field. He only had 1 rebound, though. He's like close to 7 feet. Second half, things started the same way. USC's St. Thomas, he missed a wide open jumper, just a little bit extended free throw line, wide open shot. Josh Cohen scored a few points, and that was it. That was it. It was game over from there. The Gaels have a point guard. His name is Jordan Ross from Chandler, Arizona. He's really good. He's only a sophomore, but he went crazy. I mean, there was like a 5-minute period of that second half to start. He had all 8 of their points. And all of a sudden, the score ballooned to 40-25. It was literally over from that point. The USC was just kind of going through the motions. And you get when you don't have a true point guard, which USC needs desperately, and your offense is just kind of like we're learning how to play with each other. When you have a team like St. Mary's that plays really good defense, I mean, they just smother you. They're pretty much man-to-man, but they're always helping. So it looks like a matchup man-to-man type of zone type of thing. There's always somebody in your way. There's no room to breathe. I mean, at the media timeout with 15 minutes to play in the game, the Trojans were losing 44-25. You're just watching USC's offense, a lot of one-on-one, too much dribbling. Everybody's just trying to get theirs. They don't have a go-to guy. They don't shoot well from the outside. And they weren't doing well in the paint. I mean, at that point, they were being outscored 36-16. Late in the game, it was 52-28. And I said 16-2 was a mini run. Well, how about this run? St. Mary's went on a 34-9 run when it was 19-18. That was with 7 minutes, 32 seconds to play in the first half. That's how poorly USC played. It's just across the board. Like I said they played hard, but in the second half, they just threw in the towel. It was just one shot, done, no rebounds. You could see it in their body language. There was just a lack of effort. And again, this is what happens, though, when you've got 11 transfers. You have that. It's hard to build that camaraderie, that chemistry. And when you don't have somebody on the floor, your floor general, everybody starts going mercenary. They're trying to get their own, trying to impress the coaching staff. Meanwhile, coaching staff is just sitting there like this, not sure what to do. Eric Musselman finally said, I'm going to go just get a technical with 9 minutes to play in the game. It was 56-28 at that point. And then all of a sudden, you're giving them a couple of free throws. You're down by 30. It was just ugly. It was a laugher. Best way to describe it. A total laugher. And while I think it's going to be a long season, their last game out, they won at Galen Center, but they struggled against Grambling. Before that, remember, they lost to Cal. Coach Musselman, he's got his work cut out for him this year. And I know it's a rebuild. You brought in 11 guys through the transfer portal. But still, you got to do better than this. You got to do better than 71-36. That's embarrassing. You cannot treat the fans that drove to Palm Desert like that. You got to put a better effort out there. This is why USC has such a difficult time getting the basketball program to where it should be. It's these types of events. Here, this game in a nutshell. When you have more free throws made in the second half, 5, than field goals made, I think they finished with 4 field goals in the second half. You're not having a good game. You're just not. 13 points in 17 minutes. That's a bad game. Again, 0 for 12 from deep, 26% from the field overall. I'm not going to go over the rest of the stats because they're ugly. They're ugly. So again, USC's taking on the winner of ASU versus New Mexico. I'll let you know who that is when that game ends. Follow me on Twitter. Hit me up in the comments section. I'll let you know there. Do you care? It's going to be a 9:30 p.m. tip-off Friday night. Hopefully, USC fans show up for that one. Hopefully, USC fans are filling the Coliseum on Saturday afternoon when they take on Notre Dame. I got my Friday rant coming up. Part of it, my Friday rant, has to do with USC Notre Dame. Make sure you're listening. Stay tuned. First, this. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5. You can get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and you can do it all in one place. So now, check this out. You get a hunch in the middle of the game. You want to check out some stats. You want to check out some live play-by-play. Maybe you want to make another wager. All right, you're at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can do it all in one place. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Here we are. USC versus Notre Dame. It is part of college football's DNA. Don't ask me to say that word. That's why we say DNA. And it really is the only real intersectional rivalry left. I'll take it a step further. It's the only rivalry in sports that matters. Disagree? Let me know why. Tell me why another rivalry means more than this one. Friday Rant starting now. When I hear people talk about the idea of pulling the plug on this rivalry, that it is still just as strong today as it was back in when it first kicked off in 1926, I get a little angry. And I get angry for a couple of reasons. As one of my everyday listeners, viewers, Josh Thomas, so astutely pointed out, he watched yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. Me and Pete Arbogast, the voice of the Trojans, we chopped it up for a little while, talking about this rivalry and why it's so important. Josh listened to the show, and he said this, and he's absolutely correct. This is why you need rivalries to continue. When tradition ends, so do the stories, so do the great memories. Imagine all of a sudden all those great stories, memories, things that have happened between USC and Notre Dame, just stopping. The timeline stops today, no more. The final chapter never written. Exactly. You can't let that happen. I mean, for every loss and every win in this rivalry, USC, Notre Dame fans, they're always going to remember that game above all the others during the season. Notre Dame could play Army, they could play Navy, they could play Texas A&M, Florida State. It doesn't matter. Those games don't mean nearly as much as when they line up across the field against USC. This game has so much history, tradition, significance. The idea of, no, we're not going to play this game anymore. Seriously, it makes me mad. And then the other reason that I get angry is the argument that people are using for not playing the game. It doesn't make any sense. Your argument does not make any sense. I get it. You're trying to use the pragmatic approach. Why put a tough game on your schedule that gives you one more chance for a loss? I understand that argument. It doesn't work, though. Let me explain to you why the argument doesn't work. How in the heck did USC win 11 national championships before? When the format to win the national championship was more difficult, more stringent, more subjective. I mean, think about it. You had voting, you had AP poll, you had the UPI poll, you had writers and coaches deciding, yep, that team is national champion. That team wins it because we say so. Then you had bowl games where you had to go prove yourself. All of a sudden now computers were getting involved. So USC they went through all that. They went through the voting, they went through the bowl games, the computers, scheduling difficult out-of-conference schedules on purpose. Excuse me. Now, today, there are 12 spots available to win a national championship. 12-team playoff. And it's going to be bumping up to 14 in a year or two. Promise you. Guarantee it. With 12 spots, 10-2 gets you into the playoffs if you're from the Big Ten or if you play in the SEC. It just does. To say otherwise, you're just being a contrarian. If you finish with a 10-2 season and you play in the Big Ten Conference or you play in the SEC, guess what? You got one of those 12 spots. 10-2, 10 years ago, you had no chance to win a national champion. Not a chance. I mean, well, you had a slim chance. Slim and none. Let me give you some examples. And I'm going back a little bit further than 10 years right now. In 2002, when USC went 10-2, they're out of conference schedule. Auburn, Colorado, Kansas State, Notre Dame. Then they went and made Iowa look just silly in the Orange Bowl. Remember what Kirk Herbstreit said? Nobody wants to play this team right now. Not Ohio State, not Miami, those are the two teams that played for the national championship. 2003, this is when USC started going on their run. They're out of conference schedule. Auburn, BYU, Hawaii, Notre Dame. 2004, Va Tech, Colorado State, BYU, Notre Dame. 2005, Hawaii, Arkansas, Notre Dame, Fresno State. What's wrong with those out of conference schedules? Not a damn thing. Let me go back further when things were really difficult, when it was completely subjective. You were dealing with the AP poll or the writers poll, or the coaches, the UPI poll. It's gone through different variations. 1978, this was USC's out-of-conference schedule when they were in the Pac-8. Texas Tech, Alabama, Michigan State, Notre Dame. You heard me correctly. About 1979. Texas Tech, Minnesota, LSU, Notre Dame. They won a national championship that year. So please, stop trying to sell me the conference schedule is tough enough bag of manure. It doesn't work. USC's out-of-conference schedule this year was exactly the way it should have been. Exactly. LSU, you have that win. Don't tell me you weren't excited about it. Then you had that gimme game against Utah State at home, plus this game against Notre Dame. Next year's out-of-conference schedule, it's a joke. Missouri State, Clay Helton's Georgia Southern team in early September, and then you've got Notre Dame in South Bend, October 18th. Those first two games of the Coliseum, yeah, you're going to be able to hear crickets. Nobody's going to those games. Like I said, I get the pragmatic argument. I really do. But it doesn't make it the correct argument. Just because Billy Bob down the street is taking the path of least resistance doesn't mean USC needs to do that. They haven't done it in the past. It's served them well. Stop breathing life into this. Do not let this happen. College football is already starting to wither on the vine, right? Diehards like myself are getting turned off by the NIL, that whole process, the transfer portal. Everything's turning into a mercenary approach. There's no more team. It's all me. What I'm saying is, do not pull the plug on this rivalry. And I can't imagine any true Trojan or Notre Dame fan would want to see this rivalry end. And no, I do not care that the Domers schedule weak games for the majority of their schedule. There's consequences for that. Until Notre Dame joins a conference, they can never be higher than a 5 seed. So, you know what? As I said at the top of the show, I'm going to say at the end of the show. USC, let's ruin Notre Dame's season. Let's make sure they want to play this game forever and ever and ever. Because I know I do. All right. That's it for this episode. I'll be back with a post-game reaction. I am really, really hoping I'm going to be in a good mood. You'll know. We'll know. Till that happens, everyone. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Beat the Irish. Until the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.